Well then, here I'm again. I was just thinking a minute ago, why having spacemen come to visit us? I mean, the standard opinion amongst anybody with, well, there's 1,000 billion stars in our galaxy and an estimated 1,000 billion galaxies in our universe. So it's quite a lot of space. Nowadays, they're finding, of course, that that star systems can have 10, 20, up to 50 planets. And the famous Goldilocks planets, which have got a temperature which will sustain like liquid water, statistically, looking at the distances they are from the star and all this kind of business, there's millions of them. Or, we've already found stacks of them in a few hundred planets, maybe 1,000 planets or more. We've already found a lot. So in a world where, in a universe where you've got 1,000 billion galaxies with 1,000 billion stars in each one, obviously the statistical chance of Goldilocks planets is like billions of them, literally millions and millions. So we've been around for about, our solar system's been around for about 4.5 billion years, whereas our universe is about 13 and a bit billion years old. Well, so we've only been around about a third of the life of our solar system, never mind us. And we've only been around for like dot. Now we know that our star, the sun, is a second stage star because it's not made out of just hydrogen. It's actually got a lot of other heavy metals and stuff in it, which is where we get things like iron, we've got copper, tungsten, all the elements, uranium. They've come from other stars which have gone nova, supernova, and blasted into space. Tons and tons of, literally trillions of, inimaginable amounts of material, which is then condensed again to form things like our star. So the history of the galaxy, or our galaxy, for instance, if we take it back all the way, say we go talk it nearly 13 years, there's a lot of time for planets to develop life, develop civilizations. The star goes out, because they reckon our sun will burn out in about 5 million years. So we've only got we're about halfway through. So this has presumably happened a number of times. And the obvious thing is that if we don't get visits by spacemen, which have got to be there. I mean, we've been blasting out radio signals into space since the invention of when we first started touching two wires together, making sparks. We've got over 100 years of radio transmissions and stuff. So anybody within 120 light years, 130 light years of us, which is quite a distance, there's quite a lot of stars. And of course, we only have to get the message out as far as somebody out there who happens to have their version of a mobile phone. So he can phone himself across the galaxy, maybe, depending on the technology. But the bottom line is, why haven't they come here? And of course, one opinion is that the belief is that a superior society, and I mean ethically superior, they look at us and they do a Star Trek type of thing. They say, well, we can't interfere with this planet because if we just land, they're going to expect us to fix all their problems just like that, and their society, which has happened virtually to every single what we refer to as primitive societies in the world, as soon as we, or a more advanced, technologically advanced people has invaded their land, whether it be American Indians, South America, it's all over the world, Africa, basically the colonial powers, whether, regardless who they are, we're not pointing fingers. They went along, and the end result was that the indigenous population essentially was subverted into this new society. The Incas vanished, most of South Africa, for instance, where we moved in. And I say we, as the more advanced, not as a particular race, right? And we just we took over them, just like that. So if an alien race comes here, now to arrive here, they've got to have a technology that's superior to our own, obviously. But that doesn't mean to say that they are thousands of years or millions of years in advance of us, taking into account that in a previous video of mine, I talked about the Wright Brothers going from building their aeroplane out of bits of cloth and string, basically, and then 70 years later walking on the moon, or 65 years later walking on the moon. So, like the technological advances, you don't have to be like in 100 years' time, if technology is allowed to develop at its ordinary rates, it's not held back. We should be in a kind of science that we cannot even comprehend at the moment. A world where instantaneous travel, nanotechnology, teleportation devices, eternal life will be just there, easy peasy. So why don't the spacemen come to us? And as I say, that's one possibility, that they don't want to interfere with our indigenous kind of stuff. I mean, my argument is different, that obviously extraterrestrials have got to exist. It's not possible that we have this universe that's so big that there isn't even imagination, that nobody can imagine numbers big enough to explain how big just our galaxy is, and how vast it is. We get all these things on science fiction films where these people seem to be like in a spaceship going through clouds and stuff, and they give the impression that it's almost like an aeroplane, like you see an airplane going in a big white clouds. But of course, in real outer space, the distance between all those little dots you see up in the sky the nearest little dot to us is 4.5 light years, or 4.2 light years, I think, Proxima Centauri. And then Sirius, for instance, that's 6 light years. And I can't remember what a light year is in miles, but it's a long way, right? So this concept, and obviously interstellar clouds and stuff, if you look it up on the net, some of these clouds are measured in atoms per cubic centimetre. Do you know what I mean? Like, you might be able to see them, but that's because you're looking through maybe 20 light years of very, 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 very faint. And after that distance, of course, you're going to start to notice, you're going to start to notice them there. But we're talking distances that you could lose our solar system and everything within 50 light years or something. You could just lose the lot. Anyway, the end result is that I believe we live in a zoo. It's a zoo or a farm. And the only reason people don't come here is because we're not allowed to. I mean, you can't walk into somebody's farm, and by the same time, or a zoo for that matter. So I think this might explain why haven't we apparently went to the moon and then we stopped. I mean, did somebody up there say, get back in your cage? I mean, it sounds a bit weird, but is it true? I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense, simply because I can't think of an alternative. That if we live in a populated universe, a populated galaxy, that this planet must be owned by somebody. Because, I mean, I'm here in Spain, and I said to a mate of mine a couple of weeks ago, I said, you show me 1 square centimetre of ground in Spain that hasn't got an owner. Consequently, if this area of space we live in is somebody's property, it can't just not be property, even if it's owned by the government or by some benevolent federation. Somebody's in charge of it. And I tend to believe that we're either on a farm, so we're kind of, I don't know, we're animals, we're on a farm, or this is a farm, and that eventually the bad guys, because there will be bad guys, they're going to come and say, right, the time has come to pluck the fruit. Maybe that'll be when this planet reaches a level of sustained, maximum population, because we're getting there, where at the moment we can sustain the world, but the thing is, if we have an eco disaster or something, a bit of ice cap melting or something, or severe problems, the whole house of cards could come crashing down. So maybe that's the time, because that's what we do in any farm, is you wait till you get the maximum crop and then you pick it. You don't let fruit go overripe, because it starts falling off the trees. If it's fruit on a tree, it starts falling on the floor. So for us, the right time to pluck the fruit is any time in the next, maybe we're up to 8 billion, probably within the next 20 years, because then we'll be at 10 billion. And apart from that, it makes a nice round number, doesn't it? If you're doing if you're a farmer, how much did you earn this year? I don't know, but it was like 10 billion. Yeah, that'll do. Anyway, I'll leave you with that, and I'll catch you baked potato. Bye.